Welcome to Relics Radio, your favorite weekly podcast dedicated to the metal detecting and treasure hunting community. Here are your hosts, Ken from Adventures in Dirt and Tony from 5280 Adventures.
Hey, it's another It's not Thursday. It's Wednesday. Wednesday night here, a special night for Relics Radio tonight. Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. Good to have you. Thanks for joining us. I wanted to make sure I bring in my co-host. As Mr. 5280 Adventures. Tony, how are you doing, bud?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you doing, man?
Doing all right, man. It's Wednesday night. I'm off. It's like,
I was gonna say,
like my clock, my sleep clock or something's off. That's what it feels like.
Right. It does feel awkward, you know. I mean, you get into it to where we do Thursday night, and then you're like, okay, we got one more day to get through the week. Well, it's Wednesday. What are we gonna do? Tomorrow's gonna feel like Friday.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's something came up for Thursday, and I was glad that our guest was able to be flexible and do this with us tonight for sure.
It's gonna be awesome.
Hey, we got out this last weekend.
We did. Actually, I finished up my video on it. I'm gonna put it out Saturday morning.
Oh, really? That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet. So if you guys were following us on Facebook or Instagram, you probably got a sneak peek of some pictures of where we actually were this past weekend. And talk about the middle of nowhere,
but God's country, man.
Holy crap. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But historical, in terms of, historical where it was, you know, it was a great spot. Nobody's been there since the 1870s, probably 1880s latest. And, you know, we did, you know, what great thing about an old site is when you don't find any cross contamination, you don't find any current trash. When they left, nobody else has been out there. So you're digging every target, and you're looking for old stuff. And we got in some old stuff. We got in some pretty cool looking old stuff.
We did. And it was such a unique area, unique place. Like, you know, unless no one would end up there unless
no, not accidentally,
unless somebody
took
you there. Yeah, there's no way, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of tie to sort of Native American culture, a lot of tie to the early pioneers. And you always find these, you know, since living here in Colorado, there's all these little pockets of these little gems of undiscovered areas where all of a sudden an archaeologist would be like, hey, I found a little bit of information in a newspaper article, and we went out there, and now we're going to excavate this site, or we're going to go check out this site. You're like, man, I've never heard of it. That was a lot of fun, man.
It was fun. It was
rough
fun.
Trek, rough trek.
I was going to say, I wish we would have had more time, because it was some time to get out there and pretty grueling, but we were happy to do what we did and happy to help out. Obviously, there'll be more to the story coming out. Tell a little bit in my video, so you know, I don't want to give away. I want to kind of, you know, give some tidbits here, so you guys go and watch the video.
We're always dropping these hints. And sorry, we can't really talk to you about it, but
that's right.
You have to watch the video. But yeah, it was cool. I can't wait to see your video on it, because it was grueling. It was a grueling kind of trek in, trek out, and kind of 50-pound pack on your back, and everything has to be carried in. And it was a lot of fun though. We found some really cool stuff, and people we were with were really excited. And
should be a lot more coming from that group, not necessarily that site, but that group. So it's going to be good. It's going to be really good, positive for us. Let's see who's in the live chat right now. Who we got?
So I was looking through. We got Thin Blue Diggers. Dun, dun, dun.
Really? Who's
up,
Nick?
Guy? Hey, Nick.
Robert Thompson says howdy.
Hello, Robert Thompson. Who's this YouTube user?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I've never seen that before.
Well, welcome. Is that like a generic thing when they don't have a name attached to it, or is that really
it
the
might
name?
be. I don't know. Robert Thompson says, look like Wyoming that we were talking about where we dug this past week. Very close.
Yeah, it looks similar, like same kind of landscape type stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very similar.
Yeah.
Dirt Cloud,
Colorado,
Dirt Cloud's in the house. Yep. Dirt Cloud, how you doing? Good to see you. And Detecting 307.
Yeah,
Speaking of Wyoming.
Look at that.
Perfect. Welcome, everyone. Wednesday night, special night here at RELIX Radio. Feels odd. Feels off. But we'll get into the flow here. We'll get into the flow. Why don't we bring our guest in, man? Let's get Rodney in here.
Let's do this real quick, though. Before we get to the guest, I want to talk to you about this episode of ROX Radio is brought to you by Nick's Custom Laser Engraving. Look at this. Nick's a huge supporter of the podcast here. And
thank you, Nick.
He sent us some hats, sent us some other things. You can see all the different things on your screen here. Hats, cutting boards. He's got keychains, coasters, Christmas ornaments, everything you can think of engraved from Nick. And low prices. You guys head over to Nick's Custom Laser Engraving over on Facebook, or you can actually email him over at Nick. NickHD03@gmail.com. NickHD03@gmail.com, and get set up with some cool stuff. Nick's awesome, and he'll take care of you.
And we have some links for him down below, don't we, in the description? Yep. And even if you're listening on the audio podcast, you can look down below and see it on the description. Thanks, Nick. We appreciate the support, buddy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. You ready?
I'm ready. Is Rodney ready? Think he's ready?
This is going to be good.
That's pretty good. There he is.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome.
How you doing?
I appreciate y'all having me.
Hey, Rob, good to see
you. Whereabouts are you? So, I know we had you scheduled for Thursday, and you gave up your Thursday to come on with us Wednesday. So we really appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
no problem at all. I live around the Shiloh battlefield in western Tennessee, and I'm about 2 miles from Mississippi and 10 miles from Alabama. So I live between the battles of Shiloh and the Battle of Corinth, Mississippi. And the main roads traveled right through here where my home is.
That's a good spot.
Yeah, it's a good spot. So you're pretty much in that neck of the woods. You're pretty much born with a detector in your hand. Is that how that goes?
Pretty much. You are. A lot of babies get bottles. Not around here. Everybody gets a metal detector when you're born. So that's pretty much the way it is. The only thing we find these days is what the old timers left for us. That's pretty much it.
That's true. Judging from what's behind you, you're doing pretty well off in finding some stuff.
I've got a little bit of stuff that I've dug through the years. I'll say I've been at it now about 23 years altogether. So,
oh, goodness.
Wow. Yep.
Shiloh was a pretty big battle.
Yes, it was the biggest battle in the Western Theater with the most loss of life west of the Appalachian Mountains. We had a little over 21,000 people killed here at Shiloh, and then there was quite a bit fallout between Shiloh and Corinth, which is only 19 miles apart. So the troops were everywhere, whether they deserted or winged or wounded, whatever. Unfortunately, there were remains found everywhere around here. So,
wow. You know who was out there, Tony? Albert Sidney Johnson was out there.
Really?
He sure was.
Yeah.
He sure was. He was a good one. Unfortunately, he was the highest ranking general, or actually, I think it is the highest ranking military official ever killed in U.S. history. Even though he was a Confederate, he is still the highest ranking that was ever killed.
Wow. And he had a pretty long career in the Army. Like he went back pretty far. He was really active in the Army.
Yeah.
Even way before the war, right?
Yes, he was there long before all the way down into the fight with Mexico and everything. I think his service started in like the 1830s actually. So
wow.
He had quite an extensive career before he came to Shiloh. So, and unfortunately was wounded and killed.
Oh man. Yeah, I know he's in the Utah War. He's kind of that Utah conflict. I guess it really wasn't the kind of war, but kind of the Utah conflict. Yep. And yeah, like you said, the Mexican war down there, Texas War, or whatever they want to call it. Yeah, I've read a bit about him. Really interesting.
I think he was actually I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was actually in Los Angeles before he was called back into the Confederacy, before he came here to Shiloh, where I'm at, and unfortunately was mortally wounded. But it was kind of, if I remember my history correct, he was actually stationed in California.
I pulled him up here real quick. It says he was in the Texian Army. He was in the United States Army, the Confederate States Army, and he saw action in the Black Hawk War, Texan Indian Wars, Mexican-American War, Utah War, and the American Civil War. Yeah. That is an army man right there.
Yeah, that's some service.
He was very well beloved by his troops as well.
Pretty cool. I need to read more on Shiloh. You hear about it all the time. Yeah. We're out here in Colorado. We're just, fans of the history. Not fans. It's kind of probably a bad way to put it, but we're really intrigued by the history of the Civil War. And we have a lot of friends in kind of that part of the area, in Virginia and, surrounding states. And every time we hear the stories or we get a chance to get together with those people, it's always interesting to hear about the different conflicts and the different troop movements and where they wintered and all kinds of stuff. It's just super interesting. But one thing that is very common is the relic hunters in that area. A lot of them are really dedicated to it. A lot of them have some really great, displays and collections like you do there.
I appreciate it. Well, funny thing is, so actually, I believe there was a unit at the Battle of Shiloh that was from Colorado.
Oh, no kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
At Shiloh?
At Shiloh.
Huh.
I'm going to write it down and research. It's something I would love to know.
Colorado second, maybe?
I don't remember
Glorieta Pass, maybe they went up there.
I don't remember exactly which unit it was, or they were enlisting people from Colorado to join into the Union Army and everything. And I think they did a lot of the joining in, and actually in Iowa and Kansas is where the Colorado troops joined in.
We were talking before the show that Tony and I do a lot of research to try to find as much sort of military movement as we can here in campsites and this and that. We've been lucky enough to do that. We were kind of park hunters, homestead, knocking on door hunters for about, half a part of a year until we started discovering relics. And then you'd call Tony and I relic hunters now. That's all we do.
Yeah. You get hooked real easy.
When you're reading some of the stories from Denver and from Colorado in the early days, Shivington and all that stuff, it was always rumored that Confederates out of Texas were coming up here and sort of robbing stagecoaches. Yeah. And this is the kind of the stories that were going around back then.
Yeah.
To try to get money for the effort. And there was like training grounds. And so Shivington was like, always paranoid about that and trying to infiltrate this Confederate training ground here. And there's so many stories going around here in Colorado. Tony and I have been trying to find these camps, and we found some of the camps and didn't find any evidence of it. So never know. Could just be
unfortunately, a lot of times in the Confederate camps here in the Western Theater, or the Trans-Mississippi is what Colorado would be considered, is these, like I said, these guys were squirrel hunters. Whatever they had, it wasn't a government issue type stuff that a lot of these troops had in 61 and 62. So they didn't have fancy uniforms with all the beautiful buttons on them, and they didn't have the military issue guns. They had whatever gun they used at home to hunt and fend for their families. So that's one reason I'm big into the bullets, is because at this battle, we are really well known for having the most different types of bullets and variants of bullets that there are, because we essentially had 120,000 troops here. And to this day, there's never been 120,000 people in this part of the country here. Mm-hmm. But when they clashed, they had just whatever munitions they had from home is what they used. And that's why, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it here, but I have roughly about 500 different bullets that come from this area here.
Wow.
And these are all different, bullets or variants of a certain type of bullet. So that's where my passion is in the bullets.
My gosh, look at that.
That's crazy. I love your display.
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. When people see that, they just might go, yeah, my gosh.
Yeah. Well, the reason I've done this, so as I said, I've hunted for about 23 years now. My thing is a lot of these older collections are hidden. Nobody ever got to see these collections. And I'm not going to lie, I was guilty of it myself. So what I decided is a lot of the bullet books identification are wrong on a lot of these bullets. And I do not know everything. I'm no expert or anything. I am just a digger trying to share some knowledge. And we really need an updated ID book. And it even needs to go into the Span Am War and into the Indian Wars and all that, not just the Civil War. But it's developed a passion for me. And I've had several people ask me, hey, do a book on it. And honestly, I just don't have the time at this point in my life to do it. But I want to help diggers identify what they're digging, because they dig a bullet and they're like, hey, what is this? I wish that the books were free, but they're not, unfortunately. Some folks, can't afford a $150 ID book, or whatever. But I hope that this little series that I'm doing will help diggers identify the stuff that they're finding.
Yeah,
yep.
Let's
and
talk
you're
about that. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, you're referring to a series that you're doing on Facebook, right?
Yes, on the ROX and RELIX page on Facebook.
Yep, the ROX and RELIX Facebook group link is in the chat down below of this video, as well as in the live chat here. I've put it a couple times. And if you guys aren't on that Facebook group, I tell you what, you need to head over there. Informational, like Rodney said. He's just putting on information. And that's actually what drew me into contacting and reaching out to you, Rodney, was I just love watching these little videos. You do an entire video on one specific bullet and one of the 500 and some that are on your display there. And it absolutely drew me in to be able to learn about these as you're teaching us about it. And it doesn't take that long to do this little video and watch it and learn from it. But man, you guys got to go over and check out this Facebook group, because not only just interesting, but talk about historical. Like you said, how many different bullets that they have? I mean, you can do this for a whole year.
I think right now that there's like 900 and some different types of bullets that have been identified. And I'm sure there's still a few out there in collections we haven't seen or been able to identify yet. And I can't identify every single one of them. I tried, but as I said, I try to give a short description of each one. That way it's enough to help the digger be able to identify what they found or what they're trying to collect and everything.
Right.
Nope. No one thought, like, how are we going to fill an hour and a half talking about bullets? But you know what? I think we would probably go on for a number of hours beyond that if we wanted to. Yeah. I got so many questions, and look at all that behind you. I'm sure we could do some great show and tell. What's the wood item on your shelf over there on the dresser? Right there? Yeah. What's that? This
piece here. So a couple years ago, actually, my son, it was my son's 10th birthday. I bought him a new machine, and my best friend and I decided, hey, we're going to take half a day off work. We're going to carry his kid hunting. So we did. Well, he got out there and found a couple bullets and stuff. Next thing I know, I got this really slamming signal, and we start digging down, and it's right up against this big sweet gum tree. And we're digging down between the roots and stick the pinpointer, nothing. We keep going down. We get down about 1.5 feet, and I go, this is something big in here. I know it is. So I called my son. I said, come here. He gets over. I said, dig it. He's got little bitty hands and arms. He's in there digging. All of a sudden, pinpointer goes off. He found a 12-pound Borman cannonball in the pit. His first cannonball ever. My best friend, he had never dug a piece of artillery before. So I told him, I said, come over here. It's a fire pit. So he comes over and digs one as well, a 12-pound Borman. And I'm like, well, now it's my turn. I want something out of the pit. So we dig it and everything and realize there's something metal in the root of the tree. And we're like, we need to cut this tree down. So we went and asked the landowner, hey, can we come back in the morning, cut the tree down, we'll clean our mess up, you'll never know we've been here. They were like, absolutely sure. So we go back next morning, chainsaws in hand, cut the tree down. Long story short, down in the ground, inside of this root,
You've got to be kidding me.
no, is a 1816 bayonet. And
Oh my
it is,
gosh.
That is amazing.
yeah, you can see where I had the hack on it right here, really, really hard. Just
Yeah.
trying to, this is all shovel marks. That was before I realized that it was actually a bayonet, but this was actually featured in North South Trader about 3 or 4 years ago, but really, really cool. But it's a model 1816 bayonet. Actually, the tree actually preserved it pretty well.
Yeah.
And everything. And then I just coated it with oil to preserve the wood to try to keep it from cracking any more than what it already was. But it was a really epic day. It was a day that I got to share with my best friend and my son that I'll never forget.
Oh, I just got goosebumps, man. I am not kidding you at all.
That is
Yeah,
Seriously.
incredible.
It was one of those blessed days in your life as a father too that you just don't ever forget. So
Oh my gosh, man. Can you imagine? Oh, that is one of the most amazing things I've seen.
Yeah. I agree.
Anything modified or anything like that to
Yep.
me is just that, that's the cream of the crop. Like bullets, I haven't got into the carved bullet section yet. I have
Right.
probably
It's on my list
I
to
have
ask
probably
about.
Yeah.
I have probably 4,000 different carved bullets. So that's a whole nother subject for another day or something. But like I said, fortunately we dig a lot of bullets here.
How about this? And I know you said it's a whole different topic for another day. Have you found any like chess pieces that are from bullets that were carved into chess pieces?
Oh yeah, I've got several of these.
We don't have to. I just think that's so cool.
I do. I've got some really, really neat ones here. Let me pull just a couple out here. This is probably the best looking one I've ever dug.
Oh, look at that.
I mean, this soldier spent some serious.
I think he froze up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, look at that thing.
It's
there you go. You froze up a bit, Rodney. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
And then here's another one that's very similar in shape to it, but it's kind of like a castle. It's a really cool piece. And then here's a really cool one.
No way. Look at that.
It's a crown.
Sure.
Yeah. That's the king.
That's incredible.
That's the king. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it's a really cool bullet right there. I mean, like I said, I've got some killer hard lead from lead pipes to where they literally took a 3-ringer or just any type of bullet, drilled a hole in the side of it to put the stem into it to actually put in the pipe piece itself to smoke out of. I've dug those fishing sinkers where they use the bullets, and then a lot of the time.
Losing them. Froze up a little bit there.
There you go. Sorry, Rodney.
That's all right.
Thanks for showing us that for sure. Like you said, I think we could do a whole episode, just 90 minutes of carved lead. That would be incredible.
I've got a pretty good little selection of other stuff here too. That, like I said, different stuff that I've dug through the years, and I've got a lot of stuff I unfortunately don't have room to display.
Yeah.
What did you think when you pulled that carved crown bullet up? You had to know immediately what it was.
I did. I knew exactly what it was, and still hadn't figured out what troops was actually in that camp. That's one thing. It kind of does aggravate me. I try to do the research to figure out who was there, but unfortunately, again, Western theater situation didn't have uniform as far as state buttons to identify which state was there. We don't get many of those here. So like Virginia, the East Coast, South Carolina, they dig all the Confederate buttons with the states. They dig all the Yankees early state buttons. We don't dig many of those around here.
You had a large projectile look like over on your counter there.
Yeah. I've got I got one big James here.
That thing, man.
Yeah, this one's pretty heavy
Jeez.
right here.
What is that called?
This is a James shell. This is the 6.4 inch James. This is the prettiest shell as far as I'm concerned out of Civil War artillery shells. This is one of them right here. The bird cage on it alone is just, they're just a beautiful type shell.
I've never seen one of those.
Yeah.
No.
So this
beautiful.
one here actually has a percussion slider on the inside of it. So this piece up here was called the anvil cap. Underneath that anvil cap, let me grab one real quick and give you a little better description of the stuff.
How about this educational display? I'm just in awe. I mean, you've got me drawn in here.
Yeah, start on the upper left one. Let's just go. Tell us what each one of them is, Rodney. Oh my goodness!
Holy crap, that is gorgeous. And I'm more familiar with the 6.3 inch version. He's got the 6.4 inch version, so slight variation. You know how that goes.
All right. So this is a James shell as well. This is a frag off of one that busted. So you can see the cavity for either canister balls or just powder alone. All right. But then you can see where the fuse hole is here. All right. So the thing about the James is it had this slider that went inside of it here. And on the top, you can see this. All right. This had a nipple off of like a musket that went onto it. And what happens is as this shell was going through the air, when it made impact, this slid forward and hit the anvil cap. And that's what set the charge off in these shells.
Wow.
But it's a really cool, and this is actually a really rare type of James here. This is what we call a ring-tailed James. It has this extra lip on the bottom of it, where most Jameses are just flat-based.
Okay. Do they find many Jameses out there? Like, how rare is that shell? Is it? You always hear different kinds of parrot shells and.
Yeah, so this James, the 6.4, is a fairly rare shell. The 12-pound is the common one. There's a lot of them been found. I found 2 of them actually. This big one I did not dig. I bought it from the digger himself that found this 50-some years ago, pretty much right on Shiloh Park area, right there at the boundary line. So,
wow. Yeah. So those shells, what kind of metal are they actually made out of? Like what's the composition?
They're cast iron with the fuses either being like these are brass fuses that are in this what we call a slider here. This is brass here. You can actually see a little bit. It's kind of expanded down here, and that's where the charge went off, and it expanded as it blew up. So,
did all the different ordnance like that have different detonation devices? Like, you just explained the slider there with that one.
There's several different types. Yes, there are. There are some that are timed ones where they simply just like a Borman fuse.
Right.
They would just punch down into it, and you had 1 to 5 seconds, and that's how long before the charge went off was in the air. Where a James was made on impact, it actually had to hit something to blow up. Where a lot of your other ones, it actually was overhead. A lot of people think they were just shooting them straight across the field, hitting each other, but that's not the case unless it was a solid shot cannonball.
Well, every time I see those projectiles, I think the same thing every time. And even some of those large caliber, well, any of them really, like wouldn't want to be in the way of that thing, man.
No.
When any of those frags would come off and around, it had to be absolutely devastating.
Brutal. I'll show you what one does to a canteen. This is what a frag does to a canteen. And you can actually see the holes where it went all the way through. Yeah.
Where did you get that?
This is where the mouthpiece. So this is a recent acquisition that I actually just got. This is it. If you notice, there's not just a ton of rust on it. This was actually a battlefield pickup. So after the battle, some of the local families were over there helping wounded, whatever the situation was. This was one of the canteens that they picked up out there. For some reason, they picked this up, and I think it was 7 other canteens that they had picked up. And I got another one out of the same collection that I just got that actually has the wagon track across it and where it was found. And it actually still has the mouthpiece on it, and it does have the soldier's initials in it, but it's very, very faint in it.
Whew.
Wow. Those are some amazing relics, man. And you're just sitting there holding them in your hand.
Yeah.
We're very envious, man.
What a display.
I don't buy many relics. I'm not going to lie. I do buy a little bit, but it has to be related to either Shiloh or Fallen Timbers. My house is actually on the Battle of Fallen Timbers is where it's at. But my long-term plan is to have, when retirement comes, have my own little museum, little visitor center, and that pretty much just share it with folks.
I'll ask you this question, and I
way.
don't know if I might know the answer, how passionate you are about bullets, but when it was open, did you ever go to the White Oak Civil War Museum in Fredericksburg?
I did. I had the blessing to go in there. That was absolutely amazing. I dream of stuff like that. I mean, literally.
Well, you might be heading that direction. You got quite a great. I mean, no, you've seen it. You know what an amazing thing that was. It was too bad that it closed down. I'd never seen it. I only seen pictures of it and an explanation. Accounts from my buddies that have been there. And I heard maybe somebody bought that out. Some guy owned a winery or something like that. Did you hear that, Tony? I think Matt Howell was talking to us about that. And maybe somebody may have bought that out and was going to do something with that. Did you hear anything about that, Rodney?
I did, but I don't know much detail on it. I heard that they were going to reopen it, but I don't believe that's the case in this situation. I just hope it doesn't get parted out and his legacy gone. That's my thing.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
Tony, who do we have on the show that time that came on to talk to us about that bullet tree that him and his dad uncovered?
Oh,
you remember that guy?
Yeah.
I forget who it is. He's gonna kill me.
I know.
You ever see that, Rodney? They call it the bullet tree. Huge section of log that it looks like they were doing target practice on it. And
I've seen some of the war logs before, is what we call them.
War log, yeah.
Well, I have seen several that had anything from frags to bullets to seen a few that even had cannonballs in it and stuff like that. They're awesome relics. I wish I could afford to buy one of these relics.
Yeah, so my question to ask you if you'd found any. Sorry, Tony.
No, you're good. Wait for Rodney to come back on. We had Aaron Lowe on November of 2022, November 19, 2022 for the war log. Yeah. And he spoke about that. That was absolutely an incredible learning type of podcast for us, for sure. That was, whew.
Yeah, just the story went behind that. If you guys missed that, go on, head back at season 6, episode 2 of Relics Radio Podcast. Aaron Lowe, the war log. He was out with his father and just the whole story on how he found that and discovered that was pretty incredible. It's all about the stories, man.
It is.
Yeah.
It's about the story, the history, and the camaraderie. Everybody always asks me, what is the greatest find? Right. It's real easy for me, man. I've met some of the best people that I now call family. I mean, I love, don't get me wrong, I love all this stuff that I've done. I mean, that's the.
Yeah, I think he hit it right on the nail, man. Because he can turn around. I bet you he can turn around and grab any bullet off his wall, and he'll know who he was with, right? You can do that, right, Rodney? Who you were with, what was happening that day, what else you found that day.
Pretty much. When it comes to that type of stuff, I've got pretty good memory on it. Pretty good memory.
You know, Ken and I talk about, you know, how we started kind of metal detecting and our YouTube channels together right at the same time, I think within the month of each other. And I will attest, and I'm sure Ken will as well, you know, finding somebody that shares the passion, finding somebody who has your same mindset and appreciation for the things that we are out trying to do strictly just as a hobby. I mean, we would love to get paid to do all this stuff, but I mean, we do this on our off time, right? I mean, we're out there researching, you're out there digging, all on your off time, and you find some people that have that same interest and same mindset.
Yeah,
it's like family. I mean, we joke all the time, right? We talk.
Yeah.
Ken and I talk to each other more than we talk to our wives. It seems like so.
It seems like we go down that rabbit hole, man. Like here in Colorado, you really got to do a lot of research, you know, like to really find those spots. You got to figure out, okay, where did they stop? You got too many miles between stations, so they had to stop here because there's a spring nearby. Like you got to be a real sleuth to kind of figure it out. And you just we call it going down the rabbit hole. Like we just,
Yep.
We'll call each other all day long. Like, I think I found a map that shows this, you know, so-and-so's ranch. And there's a diary from him there where he puts in this entry about feeding this captain from the local, you know what I mean? It just goes on and on and on. But then when you find it, right? When you find it, you're just like, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
All that hard work paid off. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to move towards talking about some bullets now?
We can. I have a whole bunch of questions about bullets, man. I tell you.
Yeah, I wanted to. Let's see here. If I
all
can
right.
do this.
Keep losing, y'all.
That's all right.
Yeah, you're in and out there.
When you do that, we'll just kind of make time, and when you get back to us, you can get back to us. No problem at all.
I appreciate this. Starlink was supposed to be the greatest thing on earth, but I don't know about that.
Tony, you're going to get that in your camper, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, so like I said earlier, you know, your videos on Facebook is really what drew me into reaching out to talk with you. This is one that I really absolutely loved. I want to kind of listen to this with you guys.
This is the 36 caliber teardrop.
Can you guys hear that?
I guess you can see when we call it teardrop. It does have a solid base. You can see the mold line on this. Single ring, real pointed nose. Dug about 2 different variants, maybe 3 different variants of it. Another variant of it that I have here handy is actually this one here.
Oh, wow.
Which doesn't have much of a definitive ring to it at all. And I think, I don't think so much that it's so much of a variant as it's actually a short puller in the mold. So it doesn't have the telltale little skirt that
look at that.
do.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all reaching out to me. Like I said, I just do this for a passion, man. Try to help folks out.
Yeah. What drew me into that bullet is we've actually found those out here in Colorado too. And the second that I found it, I didn't know what the heck it was. I was so early on in when I was detecting, and then we start going down the rabbit hole, put it out there, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, that's the teardrop," you know, from the Remington teardrop. And I just was like, it's such a unique bullet that the way that it falls, you know, it flows out there and it's got the base on it. I fell in love with that darn thing. And then I see, you know, you're talking about it, 2 different variants. I think we may have even found that other variant that isn't as embellished as well, because
didn't we think it was damaged or something?
Yeah. So it could have been a second different type of Remington teardrop. And so a little bit about the history on that. Rodney, tell us, you know, what you know off the top of your head here.
Well, we know on the teardrop. Are you referring to the teardrop bullet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we know that. So when I first started, you know, everybody just called them teardrops. I went to a lot of Civil War shows, and then they're like, some people called them Remingtons. We do know that they were manufactured in St. Louis. I'm not going to say that they're not Remingtons, but I leave it pretty simple. It was a St. Louis Arsenal bullet. I dug the 36 caliber, like I showed in the video there, one that doesn't have much of a skirt to it. it's not really like ground action where it's wore down back there. It's actually looks like a short bore. I was actually with a friend of mine, and I don't have one of these, but he actually dug a 44 caliber teardrop bullet. And
44,
yeah. And to this day, I still have never seen another one of those.
I'll have to measure mine.
Wasn't 44 Army and like the 36 or so was like a Navy? Does that strike any familiarity to you? Like the 36 were like the Navy teardrops and the 44s were the Army calibers. Yeah, I thought I'd read something about that, but again, we're just boys from Colorado. We're trying to catch up.
Hey, I'm just a redneck from Tennessee, so like I said, I'm no expert whatsoever, man. I really love this, and I've had some good mentors taught me a lot of stuff through the years, and just trying to pass it forward to the next generation and hope they'll have it and can use it.
I know there's something so exciting about finding your first sort of Civil War era, especially here in Colorado. Like we just don't find that stuff, and we got on a site that turned out to be a pretty nice little stopping camp or a little temporary stopping place. And they dropped a lot of stuff. And one with these star carbine bullets.
Oh yeah.
And I think they're 54 cal or something like that. And I remember our friend our hunting partner Beth was finding a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And Tony and I had never dug a 3-ringer, any kind of mini ball, anything like that. Nothing from that period, And she got to know what they sounded like. And I remember she's like, "Hey Ken, come over here, run your detector over that spot right there." And she let me dig my first bullet. And even though she was pointing it out and I was digging it up, it was still exciting as all get out, man. It was, I couldn't believe it. It was just something about that, holding that in your hand, knowing, how old it was. Something very special about that. And they were all dropped. You know what I mean? They were all dropped.
Oh yeah. Now, do you find just the 54s there?
Yes.
Yeah. That's all we find here. Yeah.
There is actually a smaller 36, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have my calipers on me, but there's actually a 36 caliber. This is not a real good example as far as showing the bottom ring. It looks identical to the 54 though. And I've only dug just a handful of these. So keep your eye out for those as well. They do have the solid base on them and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, wow,
I'm going to have to go look. I may have one of those, as a matter of fact, not even knowing what it was.
Really?
Yeah. I think I might. Yeah.
In the bullet world, there are so many little variations, man. And that kind of really tell you the difference between, one bullet to the next. I mean, when somebody says I found a Colt pistol bullet, my thing is I'm like, okay, which one did you find? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, there's probably 50 different versions of a Colt pistol bullet. So, which one is it? And they're like, oh, I don't know.
It's a round one.
It's about that big.
Not that big.
Yeah.
Got some lines on it. Yeah. I bet you, and then you're going to get to sort of measuring everything out. Getting caliper down and the markings and whether it has a base mark and all that different types of bases. You can just go down the rabbit hole.
Oh, you can. You can.
I know that the probably the most special bullet. It actually wasn't even a bullet. It was the casing. We belong to a group called the Historical Artifact Recovery Team, and an archaeologist brought us out to go recover relics at this Battle of Julesburg, they called it, right? And the Iowa 7th was stationed there at this Fort Rankin, and the Native Americans, they were kind of getting retaliation for the Sand Creek Massacre, and they were kind of sacking all these ranches in the town of Julesburg. Well, the Iowa 7th shot the Gallagher carbine. And they hated them because they had those rounded back casings and they would explode in the breech all the time.
Yeah.
And I found one of those exploded cartridges.
Oh, yeah.
That's Gallagher round. And it's like right next to a square nail, and the Native Americans burnt the town down. They came out of the fort to protect the townsfolk, brought them back to the fort, and then they fired the town. So, my mind goes, there's this young soldier out there firing his Gallagher, defending the townfolk. and he has one of these exploded faults in the chamber. He's clearing it.
Yeah.
And then later they burned the town down. So I was just like, it was painting a picture in my mind.
Yeah. And that's one reason when I started this series, you know, I explained that we're going from the simple round ball to the cartridge bullets. The misconception is, you know, they didn't have cartridge bullets during the Civil War. Yes, they did. They had plenty of different types. That was kind of like a revolutionary period in military history.
Froze up on us.
We frozen. He lost you again.
Yep.
There's just so many different types of bullets, you know, between.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was talking today with somebody about, you know, the Confederates and stuff having their squirrel guns and stuff and whatever they can find. And even some of the ragtag sort of put together volunteer cavalry units here in Colorado, like the Colorado 3rd. They have the worst of the worst, man. Governor Evans couldn't get them very good rifles or anything. They had stuff they imported from overseas and all this stuff, and they just weren't very good at all. But
yeah, not reliable at all.
Right.
And I know y'all dig 22s where you live at.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much as all diggers do. Well, I mean, it's documented there was a 22 pistol back. I think the earliest one I found was 1840, somewhere in that area there. But we dig them in Civil War camps all the time. And I'm like, well, I got into a big fire pit of theirs. And when I did, I recovered over 100.
Look at those. Look at that thing.
22 short. Oh, still in the case.
22 short.
Yeah. And I actually give a whole bunch of these away to just bullet collecting buddies of mine because they're like, you know, at least this one is documented. We know where it come from. We know who had it. And then there's all different varieties. Like this here is a Smith & Wesson that I dug out of one of the camps. It's actually a pretty.
Finding complete bullets, right?
Yeah, I mean, how cool is that? You know, definitely cool. Little 22. I swear I found one of those little 22, just the projectile. And I was like, what? This can't be.
Yeah.
But it was, you know.
No, I was going to say that little 22, it hasn't changed.
No,
you buy brand new ones, it still looks the same. Just like the same idea there. It hasn't changed at all.
It hasn't. The only difference in them is the head stamp markings, and about the 1880s, they started learning that they added tin to the lead. So the new lead will not turn pure white patina like the old Civil War period pure lead does. But other than that, they haven't changed nothing. So
yeah, you got me going back and looking at my bullet pictures now, man.
I know.
Wish I would have known you back then. You would have been our source, man. Be like, hey, Rodney, check this out. I send you a picture on my phone.
I get it all the time, man. I'm always glad to help somebody.
Well, thank you. Yeah, people, I'm sure, appreciate that. Go ahead, Tony.
I've got a real interesting find here I wanted to share, and then we can talk about it. This is also over on your Facebook page here, ROX and RELIX. If you guys aren't over there, make sure you check that out. Description here: another modified carved relic I dug several years ago near Shiloh. This is either a belt buckle or box plate that a soldier carefully cut out the U.S. out of. Was he making a stencil or cutting the letters out to use on something else?
What a unique find. Oh my gosh.
Incredible. Looks like it's a couple pieces there.
It is. When I dug it, I think it was in 5 pieces all together. And I looked for the rest of it. There's part of the U missing and there's part of the S and a little rim on the top. But
yeah,
I got everything. I even brought the dirt home out of that hole trying to find the remainder, but they were not found. But you actually look at it really close with a magnifier. It's like he laid it down flat on a board or something and literally just slowly started cutting out the U and the S in it. And I don't know, man, that one right there was a pretty special find right there.
Yeah.
Don't know if they were missing the.
How rare would that? We always talk about that, right? The relics we find that are are so unique like that
right.
it was a personal touch to some soldier who was, dealing with
Right.
what he was dealing with.
Right.
I mean, not like we wouldn't love finding a plate or a buckle, but
Well,
to find that, it's like so unique and such a unique item.
Well, yeah, and I've been lucky enough to I found that one full cartridge that had the bullet cut off that they used as a chess piece,
Right.
but also found a piece of lead that was carved into like an arrow, and again, personalized. I mean, you and I can dig bullets and buttons all day long and not have any issues with it, but any sort of personalized item like that particular US, my gosh. And I think Rodney was kind of going down the path of, well, was he cutting it out as a stencil, or was he cutting out the U and the S to use for something else? So we may never know what the intentions were for that, but to be able to find all of the, nearly all the pieces, but I bet it shows well.
Yeah, it does. I was really excited when I dug that one. That was definitely a cool piece right there. Like I said, the modified stuff, man, to me is what's amazing. I've never been lucky enough to dig an ID tag or anything like that, but I have dug a few pieces with initials on it and everything. But when you see the soldier took so much time to carve a piece, or carve something out of something, man, that's just to me
one in a billion is that there's not another one like it in the world. So
no,
man, we live for stuff like that. We just absolutely live for stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like freaking out over here. That's amazing. Do you have any items that you were able to have enough information on that you were actually tracked down and research the soldier? I think belonged to the relic, or vice versa.
There's only one piece, and I still cry about this one. So when you started the show, you were talking about Albert Sidney Johnson. All right. So Albert Sidney Johnson's aide-de-camp was Governor Isham Harris of the state of Tennessee. All right. So when Johnson was shot, Harris was at his side, and Harris was actually there with Johnson as he passed away. Well, a few years ago, I dug a piece of sword scabbard, and inscribed in it, it says, "Presented to Governor Isham Harris of the great state of Tennessee." And because of the political times that we've had here, this was about 12 years ago, I sent it off to be donated to the state museum, and they refused it. So I had another contact that said, "Hey, I've got some leeway. I want to get it in the museum." And I loaned it to him to get to the museum. Unfortunately, the gentleman passed away, and it is now gone. And I haven't seen it, heard about it. I hope someday it shows back up, but it was a pretty special piece. That was the last man to sign the Article of Confederacy to secede from the Union. So, and not to mention, like I said, he was at Johnson's side there. And I don't know, I kind of have my own little story with it. Johnson died right there with him. This is my story again. My opinion. He pulled his sword from his scabbard, and he threw the scabbard on the ground and said, "Let's go get them, boys." That's my thing. But I actually found it in a Yankee camp where I found it at. So I figured somebody just picked it up as a souvenir. So
wow.
But again, that's my story. No,
I like your story.
I'm sticking to it. And so,
I like it.
I like that. I like your story.
Wow.
But my gosh,
wow.
Where is that today? And
yeah, exactly.
I hope they can
what an
find
important
that.
relic, man. What an important.
My heart still hurts over that one there, but it was an attempt to do the righteous thing, and unfortunately, it's gone now. But hopefully, it surfaces again someday.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
Great story,
Rodney,
great relic.
Yeah. What would you say is your rarest bullet that you have found, or relic, even if you? I mean that the bayonet, man. That is just that's just crazy. I'm still thinking about that. But how about bullet? What do you think might be your rarest bullet?
My rarest bullet. I really don't know. I hate to say I've got a lot of different bullets. As far as my favorite rare bullet is probably the Hanoverian that I did. I did do a little reel on this on Facebook there. It's a really unique one. It is, like I said, it's one of my favorite rare ones. The rocker base that I just did, the rocker base sharps is another one.
What's a rocker base sharps?
So it looks like your typical sharps and everything, but on the base of it is really, really rounded over instead of being square. And this is, I mean, they're not extremely rare. I'd say if you did 1 out of 10, they would probably be a 9. So they are fairly rare. The Hanoverian, the Doug versions of them, there's a lot of fake Hanoverians out there. I hate to say that, but dealers that deal with them know that unfortunately somebody had the mold years ago and made a lot of fake ones. So
is that a thing, Rodney?
Absolutely. Counterfeit relics is a bad thing. That's one reason I don't buy from anybody but the digger theirself.
Sure.
And I have 1 or 2 dealers that I know are true, genuine, honest human beings. So I will purchase some stuff from them, but not very often.
Wow.
Yeah, not being in that world, I would have no idea that there would be that, counterfeiter for these.
Right.
Yeah.
Relics.
So to go back to when I started the series, it was about the simple round ball, that everybody digs, just the common round ball. All right.
Yep.
But I wanted to lead it into what is the closest thing that we have today that comes from back then. And the closest thing that I would say during that time period is this is a Dimmick bullet. And this
Dimmick. Oh, you froze again,
Holy cow.
Yeah, Dimmick bullet.
Yeah, I gotta look.
I just don't see those sharp pointed, thin. He's showing us a very conical bullet right now with the round base. For our listening audience, very interesting.
I'm sorry I lost y'all there, but this shows more of the classic style of bullet that we use today, as far as having the flat sides on it to the pointed nose and everything. But these are very rare.
Is there conical inside that cone? Is there a cone inside that base?
I found it online as well, and yes, absolutely, it has. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to put this in the chat.
Very accurate, maybe.
That's pretty interesting there.
Being very accurate.
Let's see here.
Very cool.
I've never seen.
You know what? I saw one on his channel. I watched him do a video on these Dimmick bullets.
Yeah,
really.
They're pretty rare bullets, very sought after bullets. And what's weird is every gun was serial numbered to a mold. So there was only one mold for that gun.
Oh.
So if your gun was number 207, your mold also had 207 on it, and they were not interchangeable. You couldn't use mold 305 for 207.
Wow.
So we have them all the way down from 26 caliber to all the way to a 69 caliber.
Wow, that's a spread.
It really is. And there's short patterns of it. There's long patterns. There's some that have the little dimple in the tail. And then there's some that have a protruding tail on it. See if I can get it. And you can see it kind of sticks out the end here. These are really, really sought after. There's just all kind of neat ones. When we got into that fire pit, this is a piece of ration that actually has 2 bullets stuck in the tin and iron that we dug out of it. That's really
cool.
Look at that thing, man. Oh my God.
That is awesome.
Really cool piece. Then there's the little bitty, see if I can get it here. A little bitty small one. This one here actually mics in, I think, at 29 is what this one mics in at. So again, they had a lot of odd calibers because the mold was made specific for the gun itself.
What would you recommend for our listeners out there? They find a bullet and they want to try to track it down. What kind of measurements would you, or what kind of information, if they wanted to give you an opportunity to help them identify it, what would you ask them for?
Main thing is a good clear picture of the side and the base of the bullet. And the reason being is people send them to me all the time. They're like, what is it? And I'm like, man, it's hard to tell without it being in my hand or having calipers on it. But if you can put a dime down as in the picture as a size reference or anything, that really helps. But I don't need just, I'd like to see where the mold seam on it is on it. Is it nose cast? Is it heel cast? Is it an Arsenal made bullet? There's so many variations in it, were they turned in a lathe? I did the one on the swag base today or yesterday. I can't even remember which one now. But anyhow, those were actually turned in a lathe. People don't realize that, they were turning these in a lathe, these bullets back then. And that's what the swag in the bottom of it is from the chuck of the lathe. If I can find it here. That's what actually caused these marks on the inside.
Wow.
I don't know if any of y'all ever had wood shop or anything, but if you remember on the toured end of the lathe, you had this thing that you drove into like the baseball bat to make it. Well, same markings, but they were just making bullets with them.
Wow. Had no idea.
Yeah, and then we were talking about cartridge bullets. This is one that could possibly be found in your area. This is a Burnside cartridge. I don't know if y'all have ever dug these, but a lot of the early U.S. cavalry did have these. Ambrose Burnside, Mr. Burnside. He's the one behind the design on this bullet here, which is really, really cool. And there's several different variations of this bullet as well. The casing's pretty much the same. I have heard that there is a rubber casing one. I have not seen it personally, but as far as the head, the bullet itself, there are a few different variations of them.
If I found one of those, you wouldn't know it because I probably dropped it. It's like, holy cow, that'd be amazing.
Right.
We love finding whole bullets and stuff, but usually they're Henrys or, SAWs or something like that.
Yeah. So funny is with the Demick bullets, those guys, that's a really, really interesting group. That's Burge's Western sharpshooters that had them. All right. And they basically went around early in the war and had competition in Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, and some of the other states in that area. And they went around and had these turkey shoot competitions. And that's how you qualified to be in this regiment. And when you did, the prize was you got the Demick rifle. So they fight in Kentucky, they fight at Donaldson, then they're here at Shiloh, then they go to Corinth and fight. At Corinth, they're like, hey, we're going to build a fort here. They built a fort and they occupied the fort from September of 1862 until March of 1864. And these guys were the cream of the crop. I mean, they had everything. They had slate roofs on their back. I mean,
wow.
They hauled slate from Ohio on the rail cars down here to do it. Well, one of the other things was in early, I believe it was February of 63, some of the guys were like, I've lost my mold. I don't have this. I don't have that. They actually bought them Henry repeating rifles. And they were supposed to outfit the whole unit, but they ended up not. They only ended up, I think there was 110 Henrys that were issued to them. And they later become the 66 Illinois is what they become. But they were a real cool unit to chase and follow because, like I said, first time U.S. history, the military used the term sharpshooter was this bunch of folks. So really cool, cool people.
Very special. Yeah. Wow. First elite shooters, Is that where sharpshooters came from? Wow.
That was before Bearden sharpshooters, which a lot of people in the Civil War world know of Bearden sharpshooters, but they don't know about the Western sharpshooters. Mm-hmm. They don't realize that actually predated Bearden. So,
do you know back in the day, what did they always consider during the war? What did they consider the most accurate gun that these sharpshooters would want to have? Would it be Any repeaters? Would it be, what did they consider that of the most accurate?
From accounts that I've read, most of them, as far as reliability on, it does shoot every time that I do pull the hammer back, so on and so forth. From the first-hand accounts I read, a lot of people really did favor the Sharps carbine as being just very sturdy, very, very reliable weapon to use.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I think that there's so many different Sharps, right? You always hear of people finding Sharps.
Yeah.
There's ringtail Sharps, and there's this Sharps and that Sharps. And how many different variations of a Sharps bullet do you think there are out there?
Well, in one of the books, I believe it's the Thomas Stelma book, he has it listed from 1 to infinity. Literally, because I mean, there's so many variations. There's probably altogether about 30 different mold designs, but then each one of the molds has its own little variation, and it's not exactly the same. So there are lots of types of them. Yeah. They're one of my favorite bullets to dig. I love digging them. Unfortunately, the ringtail, I think, is the prettiest bullet that there is, but they don't like me. I don't dig many of them. I can dig the super rare, but I can't find a ringtail Sharps to save my life. So.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
It's like me with an Indian head penny, man. I can't seem to find those at all, but everyone around me does all the time.
Oh yeah.
I've only found 2 ringtails, and I was at a military site in Kansas, and blew me away. It's one of my favorite bullets. It's definitely in the case over here and coveted because I think it's just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful bullet.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's several versions of even the ringtail. I did one on I think it was a multi-groove the other day, and then there's just so many different variations of them. I mean, from the 4-ring, there's also a 4-ring ringtail. I think I did a video on it a while back as well, but then you're just common and short pattern and long pattern. Then you get into your slant and breeze, and it just goes on and on.
Jeez. I know it's special here in Colorado. What do you say? I think I stepped on it and then he froze on us.
Yep.
I know you and I, when we were here. Sorry, Rodney, I stepped on you, man. What'd you say? Who said what best?
I said Thomas Stelma, I think, said it best when it comes to Sharp, 0 to infinity.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many.
I know when we're out here in Colorado, we find Williams cleaner. It's a pretty special time for us here. You know what I mean? Like we're like, you don't find a lot of those here. When you come across them, you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. Pretty rare for here.
So what's funny is here where I live at, we're known for our lead, the bullets that we find here. That's one bullet you will not dig here. Really? We do not have any of the Williams cleaner family at Shiloh. None. Mm-hmm. There are none here. Now, right after that, within 2 months of the Battle of
I knew that there's a lot of different bullets, but I didn't realize that. Sorry, Rodney, you cut out and I was just trying to fill it. I didn't realize that with each mold, it created different variants. So, I mean, I was just trying to relate how that all works. It's like having a different variation of these die cast for coins and things like that. You've got the different variants of this and that, because each one presses it slightly different or something like that. You have a different variant. I never understood that that's actually what the mold would do. Is so unique. Gosh, that makes it even cooler. I love bullets anyway, but man, it makes it even cooler.
It's literally like a fingerprint. Each mold has its own fingerprint. When I did the rocker base one the other day, my buddy dug the other rocker base with me, and we both noticed they got this smiley face in them. And we know that bullet was made in the same exact mold because what's the chances of having that smiley face in it, And then as the bullet molds, as they open and close so much, I'm sure the hinge pin got wore, and then the mold started sliding. And then so that changes. It could be just a regular 3-ringer today, but 6 months from now, that mold could have slid just a little bit. And now you have a new variant because the mold's not lined up perfect anymore.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Hey, what's the biggest bullet that you have heard of made? Is it the 69 Gardner, or is it they even make them larger than that?
There are.
He'll come back here in a second.
Yeah.
I want to know the answer to this one.
What's that?
Sorry about that, y'all.
Okay.
My
No,
service.
you're
I
good.
live in the sticks here.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. We were
Elon's messing with them.
yeah, that old Starlink, man. We what question did you say? The one you just put up?
16 is that the largest?
I can imagine going larger than that, but
Yeah.
because we found those 69s, those Dragoon 69s, it was like,
Yeah.
that was a gigantic chunk
Yeah.
of lead, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
huge.
Yep. Ram Detecting says I have a bunch of slid 3-ringers from molds. So that's what Rodney was talking about, having that mold just slide a little bit and creating that variant.
Yeah. Sorry about that again. Like I said, my largest is 74 caliber brown vest.
74
It's a
caliber.
round ball, but it's a huge, massive round ball.
Yeah.
Some of your Prussians actually mic in at 71 to.
You say Prussians? Yeah, the Prussian rounds.
That I ever dug, which is a really rare bullet. And I don't know, good Lord put it in front of me and I dug it and I had no idea what it was. It was just a big white chunk of lead, man. So
which one was that?
The 69 Gardner.
Okay.
And then I didn't know it was a $150 bullet at the time. I had no idea. But anyhow, I didn't know till somebody taught me. And he become my mentor when it come to bullets. So I learned a ton from Stan Hughes, rest his soul. But he taught me a lot. So
yeah, that's great. You always need a good mentor like that, because you can get so into it.
Oh, definitely.
We
It's always fun to just, we talk back and forth about it. What's different, what the little variations, and had a lot of fun with that gentleman. Like I said, unfortunately, he's been gone now about 15 years, but
we've had some recent guests on talking about fur trade relics, copper culture.
Oh yeah,
in their neck of the world, and they same thing, man. Like you need a mentor because there's so much to take in. You find a piece of copper and is it an all? Is this, is it a this, that, and a piece of jewelry? Like what is it? And some people that just be like, oh yeah, it's this. Oh yeah, it's that.
Yeah. Until you deal with them on like a frequent basis, that's the way it is, man. And it's like me. You notice the name of my thing is ROX and RELIX. Well, there's another reason because I'm a landscaper. I'm always in dirt every single day of my life, but I hunt for anything and everything from bottles to I've got a case of diamonds that I've dug in Arkansas.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
To rubies and sapphires to Indian artifacts. Like I said, my passion's outdoors and just finding stuff, man. Like I said, I really got into the bottles real big last year, a little bit the year before, but anyhow, like I said, each one of them has its own little niche though. And like I said, I'm no expert on anything at all. I'm just a guy with a lot of passion.
Yeah, I can see you just, man, jumping into all that. Are you a water guy?
Not so much. Not really.
No shark's teeth, anything like that?
No, unfortunately, we don't have those here. We do have the mosasaur here where I live at, which is, was in that Jurassic Park movie, the big fish-looking thing that jumped up and, kills everybody. Those are actually here in my county where I live at.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
what'd you get into first? Like rock and minerals, or did you get into Civil War hunting?
Pretty much. I was more of a rock hound growing up in California. I was born out there. Don't hold it against me. If you're out there in California, hi, I'm sorry. But
you and me both.
Yeah, it was, just always a passion for being outdoors, man, and just seeing what was out.
We've talked to a lot of people like that, man, where it's just like, if you're outdoor type person, you're always looking down, you're always like looking around, and something really attracts you. You know, I think it's cool that he works in the dirt all the time. You can finding those rocks and stuff. How about Native American artifacts, Rodney?
Oh, I've got a couple of them around here that
I'm sure.
I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have what I used to. They kind of walked off one time with an individual, but I do have just a few. I don't know how well you'll see here, but
beautiful.
These are a few of the better ones. I do have some more cases, but it'd take me an hour to dig them out and everything. But like I said, it's you know how it is when you're out relic hunting or whatever you're doing. I'm always looking at the ground, so it's one of those things. You know, I'm always happy to see them. I have dug for them, and basically in fields where, you know, it's probably mounds there 150 years ago before it was all farmed and everything. You find them scattered in the fields, but like I said, it's a lot of fun to even hunt for them. I have a lot of real good friends that hunt for them and have a lot of success with it. So I can't tell you the names of none of them. I'm not going to lie to you.
Do you think they're all from the same period?
No, the two different areas I generally find them in is their time periods are pretty far apart. So like I said, one site's kind of archaic site and the other one's more of a Mississippian period site. Lots of pottery shards and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Interesting.
What's your family? Oh, go ahead, Tony.
I was going to say, I got a question for you. What's a nipple protector?
Well, when the winters get cold here, I'm sure like in Colorado, you know, we didn't have thimbles to cover them. No. Anyhow, a nipple protector.
That's what I thought.
I'm selling them on my website, $15.95 a pair.
Yeah. All right. So like I was telling you on this slider earlier, you know, I told you that a percussion cap went on the top of this. All right. It used to stick up a little bit taller. The percussion cap set on. Well, you didn't want dirt to get inside of it. So on the muskets was the same thing where the hammer is, right? So the hammer's cocked. That means that the orifice is open if you don't have a percussion cap on it, correct? All right. So the other problem is with the hammer open, your mainspring on the inside of the musket was stretching. And that made the hammer over time less forceful. But you use the nipple protector to go, no percussion cap, where it sat down on top of where the orifice is, that the hammer would come down and strike. You would rest your hammer over that, and that would keep the moisture out of your black powder. That would keep debris and causing your gun to misfire or not fire at all. And those days, you know, they were fighting tooth and nail, and you didn't want your gun to misfire on, you know, that was the difference. And there are infield made actual manufactured nipple protectors, but a lot of times they were lost, I believe. We find several of them. I've been fortunate. I've dug probably 35, 40 of them, of the manufactured ones. And then I've dug, again, probably 30, 40 field made ones. So again, another one of the personal pieces of lead that's really, really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I never knew about it. That's really
now
cool.
You know.
Yeah, I saw it on Rodney's Facebook group. We had to ask
I should have posted it for yesterday, being that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But I may have to repost that for the ladies out there. Like I said, so
we also call them thimbles.
Yeah, thimbles. Yeah.
Are they only sold in a pair though?
Well, I've never dug them in pairs like that.
So funny.
Hey, we've got a quick question from the chat here. Thin Blue Digger says, what is your most unexpected find from a camp?
Most unexpected find from a Civil War camp?
Yeah.
Let me think.
Put you on the spot there. I mean, you're going to dig, you're going to find bullets, you're going to find buttons, carved lead. What's unexpected?
What's unexpected? All right.
Right.
I got it. I knew what I was going to pick, but I had to find it. I don't know if I need to cover it up though, because it's kind of funny. But anyhow, I was metal detecting a camp in Virginia, and first thing I find is this little bitty lead guy that I don't know what's going on with this dude here. He's got something coming out the rear and they're way out.
Yeah. Looks like he's riding a bullet.
Yeah, and it's made of lead, so I had to dig it. So it was,
yeah.
You had to think, what in the tarnation is that, man?
Yeah, that was definitely the way I felt. I think I laughed for about 20 minutes there when I dug it, because it was
crazy,
completely unexpected. What's a little naked guy doing out here in the Civil War camp? So, and there was no home place. There was no home place there. There was nothing there. It was pretty much just a virgin campsite, and here's a little naked dude there. So
you would have done that in England, you would have been rich, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been some kind of like Celtic god effigy or something.
Right.
Yeah. Still haven't never. It's one of the relics I've searched and I can't figure out what it was for. But just a funny story, anyhow. Like I said, but that's cool, unexpected find relic.
Absolutely.
We had another question came in from Drummond Detect. Says, how many Washington arsenals do you have? Oh, we freeze up again. Okay.
Froze on a good question.
Yeah. We'll get back. I want to ask him about gold. You think he's found any gold at any of these camps?
Any gold?
There we go, Rodney. Yep. Washington arsenal.
Yeah. I've got a little bit. I don't know how well it's going to come in here, but I do hunt for gold in a few different places.
You're a prospector? Cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
How many Washington arsenals? Washington arsenals do you have? Drummond Detect wants to know.
How many? Probably over 100 Washington.
Whew.
Are they considered rare? I wonder. I wonder what the rare arsenals are. Like, your coin you found was Delonegay, or was it? And that was fairly rare. Delonegay,
yeah.
Is Washington rare, Randy?
Not so much rare. It was more of a common Yankee bullet, mostly late war, but there were several. They even say that the swag base that I was showing you earlier, it was turned in the lathe. They also say that they're made at Washington Arsenal. I do know for a fact that there were some made in Philadelphia as well. So, like I said, a lot of times people have little arguments about, well, so-and-so made this, so-and-so made that. I understand. And like I said, a lot in the books and stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's misidentified in there as where it was made or who had it and so on and so forth. And swag base is kind of one of them. People go, nope, they weren't made in Pennsylvania, but I have read accounts where they were actually manufactured there.
Huh. Yeah, very cool. You get those, you got the arsenal marks in the bottom of in the base of the bullet, star marks.
The infields. Well, so the Washington Arsenal that we generally call Washington Arsenal is the one with.
Whoa.
We lost him again. He was going to give us all the secrets and he froze up.
I know. I was right on the edge of my seat.
Oh, that's always great.
He's just toying with us.
I don't mind him freezing up, but when he goes, it's actually the answer is it's all right, Rodney. Shoot.
Yep. He'll be back and tell us what he's going to tell us here.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for showing up today, man. I'm seeing Lurker Troy's in there, Drummond Detect, Ram Detecting. How you doing, buddy? A lot of people showing up. Bill Digger, how you doing, bud? And
Ram Detecting
questions coming in.
Good questions, yeah.
Yeah.
Good participation tonight.
Yeah. Bullets, man. I'm telling you what.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
There's Rodney.
Yeah, sorry, man. You're going to give us the secret to the universe, and then you just cut out on us.
I got you. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, that's all right. No apologies.
Yeah. So you were saying the Washington Arsenal. What kind of stamp was in it?
So I've only seen a couple. I think Matt Howell was always telling me to make sure you check the base.
Yeah.
Because there would always be these different stamps in there. Did Washington have a special stamp?
Yeah, they had the star, but now not all Washington Arsenal bullets have a star in the base of it. There are a couple different variations: a big star, a little star, one that's kind of off to the side a little bit. But they are a more common bullet. They're not a real expensive bullet. You can usually pick them up at shows for $3 to $5 a piece or something, but still a good bullet to add.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would like.
I was gonna say I would like to know, like, because I'm learning a lot about all this stuff. How many different arsenals he's talking about Washington, Philadelphia, St. Louis. He mentioned. How many arsenals were out there creating these things. Rodney, would you know approximately? Could you name off some?
There were lots of different arsenals. Pretty much every state had its own arsenal.
Okay.
I don't know if y'all caught that, but pretty much every state had its own arsenal and everything. As far as an actual number, I don't, because a lot of them were private manufactured also. So it wasn't really an arsenal that was making it. I guess they would call it an arsenal, but like the Carcano bullet, it was supposedly made at the School of Deaf, Dumb, and Blind in North Carolina. Is who made those bullets. So, I mean, like I said, at that time, man, our country was doing everything it could to, help one side or the other. It's the saddest day in history to me. It really is. I mean, to this day. My dad was a veteran of the 19. I have much respect for all service members, and I always asked him, I said, well, when I was young, I was like, which side you for? And he's like, well, neither one. And I was like, well, why is that? And he said, well, after all the years and all the service that I did, he says, you have to remember one thing about that war. They were all Americans at the end of the day.
Right.
And they all deserve the same respect. A lot of people don't realize the U.S. government showed respect to the Confederacy just a couple years later, that, we're going to treat their dead as our dead, and that's something that's been lost. So, like I said, everybody likes to be divided these days. It doesn't have to be.
Right. Pick a side. Which side are you on? Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. It was back then.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish things went the way.
I like what he said, though. But regardless of the side, they were all Americans. Right?
Amen.
Right.
And that was something the reality of it.
After the war ended, and I can't remember what the president was after Lincoln was killed, but they pardoned all of the Confederates to try to bring the country back together. They pardoned all the Confederate soldiers, and I do believe that some of them were, I think they even came into the government then. To represent the southern states, as representatives and things like that. So
it did happen on a very, very limited.
Yeah.
I am a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans because I had a lot of ancestors that did fight, but I'm also a Union member also, that I had ancestors on both sides in this war. But like I said, it's one of those things. I don't care which flag, whatever. Like I said, my dad, rest his soul, if he ever taught me one thing, is in that war, they were all Americans. And if you really want to know about that war, you really need to pick up your own books and you need to go read diaries from that time period to get a real understanding of propaganda and so on and so forth. So
I do a lot of genealogy, and I found one of my relatives kind of distant, through moms, through their family, and they were up in, I think they were up in Kentucky, and they were writing letters back and forth between. I think they had one son that was on the north and another son that was in the south, and they were writing letters about just how tough they were having it, as far as, lack of money and scarcity of food and this and that. And you read those letters and it just brings it home. You're like, the soldiers it was terrible what they were going through with each other. But then also the families left back home were having a real rough go of it as well. And very unfortunate.
Yeah, that's like I don't know if y'all have seen, but I posted some of the ink wells that I've dug, and I've dug several ink wells out of Civil War trash pits and stuff and hut sites, and man, every time I get one, it sends chills down my spine because I think, this guy could have been sitting right here and writing his mother, the love of his life, his children, or it could have been military orders or whatever. But man, even though it doesn't have their name on it, man, there's just that bottle held the ink that, when that letter got to wherever it was going, they were just excited and elated, to actually hear from that person. And like I said, to me, that's one of the best relics to dig to me. I mean, it's really special to me. Like I said, I don't know. A lot of times when I'm digging, man, I just take a break and think, man, they were sitting right here camping.
Yeah, those ink wells, man, they had to be so important to those soldiers.
Oh my God.
Had to be one of their most important pieces of kit and possessions,
Well, when you read those diaries or those letters, they're, to my dearest, my dearest Emily, I mean, that was their communication and insight to what they were doing and seeing. And could you imagine just waiting to get a letter from them to know that they were still safe?
And the fact that the mail service was even still going.
That's the reason it's so personal, man. It's one of those, to me, it's a heart.
Oh, did we lose him?
I think we lost him.
When his battery died. Oh, shoot. Well, we'll have to get him. We'll see if he pops back on here, but we'll have to get all of him. Oh, he's coming on. There we go. That's all right.
Starlink, man.
No worries.
Yeah.
But no, like I said, there's a few relics that really just, I don't know, kind of touch you, and that's one of them. I mean, it really is. Or when you read like an excerpt from a newspaper about like the road I live on, 1870,
something that touches him personally, right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what was happening there and going up and down his road, and he lives on that road, so he can just walk out his front porch and imagine all the stuff going on that he read about that was actually right there. I told you I went to Gettysburg that one time. And only time I've been to Gettysburg. I went there on business, so I wasn't there as a tourist, but this guy took me back to his trailer, and there was this thicket of woods. He said, my dad and I have hunted that thicket of woods my whole life. And I'm not kidding you, man. I think your mind just gets to you, but I could almost see soldiers coming out of that thicket of woods. And you had this feeling, just this feeling of what happened there without even having to know all the history, but just, and I'm sure, Rodney, you were just going to mention that.
Yeah,
you read articles about what's going on your road, and you walk out your front porch, and there it is.
Yeah, and that's the case. In 1870, the Louisiana Commission sent delegates up here to review the Battle of Shiloh and where their troops were at, and so on and so forth, and find some of their dead. Anyhow, they wrote in the report that the road that I live on here, every hill and holler was littered in bodies 8 years after the battle. There were still bleached bones, uniforms, all their recruitment, everything they had. Everything they had was there. And I've dug some other pieces around here on this little area in this one holler that I know that there's no skeletal remains there, but I dug 4 wedding rings out of this one little holler right there. And most likely that's another special one to me. Like I said,
that'll sit you right down.
It'll put you in your place. I mean, if you really care about history and stuff, that, like I said, kind of melts your heart, man.
Yeah, amazing. Rodney, you've been a great guest, man. We appreciate you giving us your time.
I appreciate y'all for having me.
Yeah, it was educational. It was very interesting. I'm amazed at the knowledge you have. And I know you're a very humble person. And you're like, I don't know it all, but it's very impressive for boys from Colorado to see the kind of things you talk about and the history you have learned, the knowledge you have obtained. And it's really cool, man. Thank you.
I appreciate y'all having me, and the door is always open to you. So if you ever find your way this way, reach out to me.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So we appreciate you being on. We'll get back in touch with you and chat with you later, and we'll touch base with you after the show, and we'll go from there. But thank you one time. Thank you once again. I know everyone enjoyed watching you here on the chat, but later they'll be watching the videos back. Any parting words you want to say to people that may be watching the video later on?
Just happy hunting, be safe, enjoy it, and make good friends.
There you go.
Perfect.
Love it.
Perfect. All right, man. Have yourself a good night.
You do the
Thanks,
same.
Rodney.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for being our guest, buddy.
Take care.
We'll see you. Great guest, man.
Awesome guy.
Great guest.
And I want to say again, you guys got to go over and follow his Facebook page. It's been posted quite a few times, as well as in the description here.
Yeah.
Information overload from there. But I tell you, what an incredible guest, incredible detectorist. And bullets, man, bullets.
Yeah.
Woo!
Somebody just focuses in on that, on specific items, specific things, and just really dives in. You know what I mean? Like, it's impressive every time we talk to somebody like that, you know,
Awesome.
Whether it be, you know, copper culture, anything like that, where it blows your mind. You're like, oh my gosh, you know, like we realize just how limited we are here in Colorado. You know?
Right.
I mean, we're always proud of the stuff we find 100%.
Of course.
It's amazing, but, wow, the stuff they can find out there. And it's great to hear that, you know, he has that connection to history and that connection to the community. You know what I mean? Nothing better than getting together with friends and enjoying this hobby together and this passion for stuff. And his parting words were great because we talk all the time, right? Like, until you go find a way to get out with friends and kind of get together with some, it's fine going out digging by yourself. That's always fun, but boy, it just elevates everything when you can share it with a good friend and or numerous good friends that you trust, that you know, have each other's back and you can share information with. Amazing. So I'm glad he parted like that. So well, let's get out of here and then we'll chat with Rodney offline here. And
Yep. I just want to mention I've got a good video coming out this Saturday. Make sure you guys subscribe over to the YouTube channel 5280 Adventures. It's going to be Ken and I digging out in Colorado somewhere and some pretty cool stuff. So oh, sorry, I gave up too much.
Right. Can't say Colorado. No.
Oh, shoot. They know we're in Colorado.
Cat's out of the bag.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Can't wait to see that video.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah. Same. Thanks, everyone. Adventures in Dirt. You can find me anywhere on social media, Adventures in Dirt. Check it out. I'm watching all your videos out there. I'll be putting out a new weekly dirt here soon. I hope everyone has a good time. Be careful. Have some fun. Go find the good stuff. And when you find it, let me know about it. Have yourself a good night. We'll see you next